Now, welcome to another lightning response video, where this time we'll do a few questions, and we will kick it off with this one from Angelo Buscami, who asked, Hey Thor, going from general buzz slash trailer views, I'd be surprised if The Mandalorian and Grogu doesn't lose money. Less than 10 million views for a Star Wars movie trailer is frankly pathetic. If this movie ends up bombing, do you think it will finally wake up Disney, or will they keep doubling down out of hubris slash spite? I want to believe they will finally wake up, but considering how they've reacted to every failure up to this point, I think the most likely answer is that they will continue pushing no matter what. At this point, I'm not even angry anymore. I haven't been angry for years, it's just apathy. And in my mind, that is worse because at least the anger came from passion and a care for the franchise. Apathy is no feelings at all. All right, and 10 million views for a Star Wars movie after what, it's been a little over a month since that trailer came out. Yeah, that is pretty pathetic for Star Wars. I mean, go back and look at some of the other trailers, and granted, it's been years, and you will have people who went back and watched them over the years, so the numbers are inflated. But when they came out, when the Force Awakens trailer came out, for example, the numbers on that were insane. And granted, that was the first Star Wars movie from Disney. That was the first one in 10 years. But at this point, The Mandalorian and Grogu will be the first Star Wars movie in over 6 years, too. So you would think, and I have argued that the excitement would be there from the more casual fan, that average viewer, just because it's a new Star Wars movie that they have. And Disney is probably hoping this is the case. They've forgotten how much they didn't like the sequels. They see the Star Wars logo, they go see the movie. They see Grogu, they see little baby Yoda, they're going to go watch it just because of that. That, I think, is the hope out of Disney with this film, and, well, the trailer numbers perhaps do say otherwise. I do wonder if maybe the casual fan, the average viewer, they've had Star Wars over the last 6 years. They've had inferior, substandard Star Wars on Disney Plus. Yes, some has been good, some's been really good, but overall, it hasn't been great on Disney Plus. So the Star Wars absence hasn't really been there. It's been with us all along, and I'm assuming a lot of the casuals, a lot of average fans, those type of people have watched some of it on Disney Plus and probably haven't been overly impressed. Though yes, The Mandalorian, the series, did do pretty dang well, we can't deny that, and Grogu certainly did become a pop culture icon. He certainly is the biggest thing Disney has created with Star Wars, so you can't forget that, but maybe people are just tired of that. Maybe people just don't care to see more of him. They had their fill years ago, and they don't see the point behind this movie. They're not clicking on the trailers, and maybe they won't go to the theater. Maybe I'm dead wrong about this. And if that is the case, which is what you're asking, what do I think Disney does? If that's the case, well, I don't think they do anything quite yet. I think there is a lot of hope on Starfighter as well. I'm going to be very curious to see how that movie eventually does, how they promote it, considering we have Ryan Gosling. We have a S tier level actor here, one of the biggest actors, one of the biggest draws in the world, you could certainly argue. So I'm curious how that movie will do, and let's say Mando and Grogu disappoints at the box office, and let's say Starfighter disappoints at the box office. What do they then do? Well, at that point, I'm assuming Kennedy will be gone, either because she actually has left, like she said she was going to leave earlier this year, or because she is finally fired because, hey, you brought Star Wars back to the theater, it's not performing, it's time to go. And I do think Disney does try to correct course. I don't think they ever admit their failures. They're never going to do that, for better or worse. But I do think at some point they bring in someone new. I've said it before. And when they do that, when there is a new president of Lucasfilm, I do believe many fans are going to have a little bit of hope in them again. That, hey, maybe this new person comes in and changes things, gets the franchise on track, especially if they perhaps ignore the sequels. I'm not saying retcon them, but just move away from them. And we'll get to a question about that in just a second. But I do think if the next two films fail, I think what you try to do is have a new jumping on point altogether. You try to promote this is kind of a new Star Wars, yet also old Star Wars. You don't want to change it too much. But you move to a new place and time in the galaxy altogether, move far into the future is what I've always said. Or you can do Old Republic, I suppose. I just think you have more landmines potentially there where you could screw things up and get fans angry if you go back and mess with Revan or do anything silly like that. But I really do think if these next two movies fail, you won't hear any more about Rey movies or anything like that. I think Kennedy is gone one way or the other. I think someone new comes in and tries to freshen up the franchise, not unlike, say, what the DCEU did, where we have James Gunn coming in. Now, I'm not saying that's the greatest decision ever. I'm just saying there's a precedence to say, okay, well, we tried to do something, our universe essentially failed. And so let's bring in someone new. Let's bring in someone that maybe brings in some excitement, generates some new hype, and try again. Obviously, DC, Star Wars, they're different. I don't think Disney is going to retcon everything they've done. I think they just move to a different time and place, which is a luxury that maybe DC doesn't necessarily have. They kind of have to stay in modern day Earth, if you will. So yeah, that's basically what I think happens if these next two movies are failures. No, Disney isn't going to say we screwed up. They're just going to bring in someone new and say it's time to move Star Wars in a new direction because we are so thankful for what Kathleen Kennedy did all these years, but it's time for a new direction. And cross your fingers or pray, whatever you want to do, that whoever they bring in next can actually get this thing right. All right, and now we move on to this question from Severitus, who asked, Hey Thor, the idea that many fans will never give new content a chance because of proximity to the sequels is a huge reason why I, as a fan, am fed up with this fandom. At some point, there needs to be an acknowledgement that we collectively make our shared spaces more miserable than they have to be. Kathleen Kennedy and Iger are not responsible for people being closed minded. Sorry that that's not a question, but here is some feedback from the minority in case you want it. Have a great weekend. May the force serve you well. And I certainly understand your frustration, and I share it to a degree. I am not a fan of the sequels, as I think everybody who watches my videos knows at this point. I am, however, open to the idea of a post-sequel trilogy story or time period that, yes, has to involve the sequels to some degree, that carries them on to a degree, but that it could potentially be good. I would certainly prefer them do something else. I would not be upset if they retcon the sequels, or, I don't think they're going to do that, mind you, but it wouldn't make me mad if they did that and tried over again. I do understand there are fans of the sequels who are probably sick and tired of hearing them attacked and crapped on all the time. But to play a bit of devil's advocate and explain the other side, I think the reason why so many people don't want anything attached to the sequels is that's the thing that in their mind destroyed Star Wars. That's the thing that brought about the apathy they're now feeling. And so, like I've said before, I think a lot of Star Wars fans who say they're 100% done with Star Wars, they will never, ever, ever come back. I think they would come back if things changed. I think, like I said before, if someone new was brought in and they moved away from the sequel trilogy and they seem to know how to get Star Wars right, I think a lot of fans would come back. Now, yes, there are those who will never come back because of Disney, and that's understandable. I personally am not a fan of Disney, and you might say, then why do I support Star Wars? Well, it's the same reason. I've gone into this analogy before, but there are sports teams out there I love, and I don't necessarily love the ownership, but I love the team. I love my fellow fans of that team. I want to see the team win in spite of whoever owns it. And that's kind of how I feel about Star Wars. I love Star Wars. I don't like Disney, but I love Star Wars, so I have to deal with the fact that Disney owns it. Anyway, before my little tangent, as I was saying, I think a lot of people just see the sequels as that which destroyed Star Wars and destroyed their love for it. They are the reason why they can't enjoy it. And so if there's any chance of them enjoying something new, they just don't want to see it attached to the thing that was the reason why they are having trouble loving it in the first place again. I know that might sound silly or even petty, you could argue, but I totally get that. Again, I am someone who's gonna give the post-sequel trilogy era a chance if that's what we end up with. Who knows what will ultimately happen. But as a fan, I'm gonna give it a chance, but I also understand the fan who's like, yeah, I don't want to give it a chance. I don't care about the sequels at all, and every time I see characters from them, every time something is associated with them, I just lose interest. This is the thing that killed Star Wars. And the last thing they want to see is the knife jabbed in even further with the same thing that killed it in the first place. All right, let's move on here. Let's do one more question. I was going to do more, but I ramble way too much. And this one comes to us from a name I'm not going to try to pronounce because I think I would butcher it. My apologies. But they said, Hey Thor, what do you think of the possibility that these coming movies may be a financial success, but the writing quality is as subpar as most of the live action shows? If Disney is all about the bottom line, would they even know the difference between Andor and these movies? Might they go full into making movies and push the shows to the back? As always, thank you for the great videos and even more for your honest and rational takes, some I even deeply disagree with. And I do think we're going to see less shows in the future. They have said before they want to do like one a year, but even that might not be the case. I think Andor, as much as I loved that series, as much as the critics seem to enjoy it, as much as others seem to enjoy it, though yes, some didn't. I think with that costing somewhere around $600 million and not necessarily moving the needle all too much for Disney Plus as far as we can tell, the ratings on it, sadly, were not phenomenal. They were decent, but not anywhere near $600 million worth. And I say that again as someone who loved the show. But I do think there's gonna be much more of a focus on movies the next few years and a lessening of the live action shows. I mean, the only one we know of right now is the Ahsoka series, Ahsoka Season 2. After that, we have no idea what is coming, if anything at all is even in the pipeline. We hear rumors all the time, but who knows if any of those rumors are true. So we do know a couple movies are coming. We know Mando and Grogu and Starfighter are absolutely coming, and we only know about the Ahsoka series. I could see them maybe doing more, leaning more into animation. We have Maul Shadowlord coming next year. We have Ninth Jedi, the short from Visions Volume 1, which is also going to have one in Volume 3 coming up in a few days. But that short is being turned into a full on series, so I could see them doing more of that. That is certainly cheaper, but also at the same time doesn't get the attention that a good live action show might. So I don't know. I think a lot is going to be decided in the next 2 years or 2.5 years or so with Mando and Grogu and Starfighter and how those movies do, and whoever comes in to replace Kennedy and what they are inheriting. Again, if those two movies do well, maybe they continue on as normal. If those two movies don't do well, perhaps there are some major changes, some big shakeups on what their plans are, because we do know some of their movie plans. We have heard about the Rey movie, which is apparently delayed or indefinitely on hold again. We know there's supposed to be a James Mangold Dawn of the Jedi movie, which may or may not be happening because Mangold just signed a big deal with Paramount. We know Simon Kinberg is doing a trilogy, which is supposed to kind of be a new Star Wars saga. It's supposed to be a big new story, which supposedly is going to include sequel characters, including Rey. But anyway, I do think these next two movies, how well they do, will decide the future direction of the Star Wars franchise. All right, I think that is going to be all I got for you this time. Your turn. Take to the comments below and tell me what you think about anything and everything I had to say here. How would you answer these questions or ask a question of your own? All you got to do is start your comment off with "Hey Thor." You ask your question. I try to answer it in a future video, and I say try because I love to ramble even when I plan to do more questions in a video. And there are always tons of questions down there for me to answer, which I greatly appreciate. Either way, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.